Hey everyone, welcome back to the color pencil tutorial. Last week on this project we did some base layers for the skin tones, and this week we will continue building up those layers, getting our hand looking more realistic, adding a couple colors. We basically did most of it with just two colors. We used that peach color, and then we used a brown color, and then at the very end of the stream I added just a little bit of gray. So I'm going to continue on in the hand, and of course if you guys have any questions about the process, feel free to ask. Hello Marcy, Chandri, JP, Frederick, Timo, TP. Oh, well, welcome. Yeah, glad you came over from Twitch. Appreciate that. Hello Electro, and Sherry Javian. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Good morning, Barbara. Good to see you. Carrie, I don't know. Sam, Gobbler, good to see you as well. All right, so I'm going to continue on here. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of the Prismacolor 1019 Rosy Beige, and just continue layering on the hand. Hope everyone is having a fantastic week so far. It's Thursday, so Friday coming up really quick. The hand is looking good. I'm glad you like the way it's coming together. Still a lot of work to do on it. Hands are really tricky. Getting hands to look realistic might be even trickier. Is this even coloring? Maybe this is the color I used last week. Oh, hello Gavin. Teresa, Leonardo, good to see you as well. Hey, what's up, lady? I remember your different screen name now, so. I imagine you're probably at work, pretending to work when you're really watching my live stream. You know, I almost turned on POD today. Yeah, I almost booted it up. Haven't been having the best chess days the last couple days. It's been pretty awful, actually. Okay, this color's not working for me, so I'm gonna switch colors. Sometimes that happens. Let's see here, what is this? This is 1092. Is this the color I'm looking for? 1092. Where is this color even at? Where's 1092 on my color? Okay, yeah, this color looks better. I'm looking for something that's a little bit darker. I need it to be a bit darker. Build up some values here. Oh, you're ready to lose in some chess? I might stream some chess after this live stream, so you might be able to lose as early as today. I've been doing nothing but losing, so I wouldn't be surprised if you actually beat me. Please make a video on best colored pencils for a beginner. That's an easy video to make. Prismacolor. Yep, Prismacolor. Just get your hands on some Prismacolors. You don't need the whole set. You know, good pack of 48, 72, whatever you can get your hands on. Go for Prismacolor and don't worry about anything else. Can't watch the stream if you stream chess. Yeah, I'll probably stream some chess tomorrow as well. Yeah, this is a little bit better here. This color's a bit darker. Need to bring in some nice red tones and some deeper values into the hand. Again, the color I'm using is 1092. So I'm going to use this to kind of cover the hand a lot. So it's just kind of reworking the base colors. You can start to see the hand warming up with some pink tones. This color here has a little bit more red in it. Hello, Ellie? Elia? Maybe I'm pronouncing that right. I see you're from France, speaking speaking some French in the chat. I don't speak any French, unfortunately, but bonjour, I guess. I guess that's about the extent of my French. But welcome. Best paper. Well, there's actually no such thing as the best paper. When it comes to colored pencils, paper is a very, very subjective discussion, and the best paper is what you like to work on. A lot of people have different preferences for the paper that they like to work on, but if you're asking me what my favorite paper is, then I probably can't answer that either, honestly. The best GSM, 200 or more, I'd say. I think anything lighter than 200 GSM is probably getting a little bit on the light side. 300 I think is real comfortable. I think this is 250 here that I'm working on, and it's really really nice. 250 I feel like is a sweet spot. 300 might be, a little bit more than you need. My original my original country is America, and yes, my logo is just the mask with the masking tape over the eyes. But my signature, I think, is what you're referring to, has is also written in Japanese, and that's because the concept of signing my artwork comes from Japanese artists. It's called a Gagoin stamp, and it's how they sign their artwork. Sometimes they're circles, but most of the times they're square. Well, I appreciate you coming by, Elia, and doing your best to understand the videos. I appreciate it regardless. Best colored pencils for beginners, Prismacolor. Konnichiwa, Electro. Yeah. So let's talk through a little bit of the procedures that I've gone through so far with the hand, just as a refresher and to explain it to those people that didn't watch the previous parts of this tutorial. So day one of this project, I only used one pencil. I only used white, and I added the highlights to the entire picture, including the ice cream cone. But mainly around the edge of the hand and the fingers here. So that was day one. I only used the white pencil. Day two, which was last week, where we started working on the skin tones of the hand, we essentially used only two colors. We used, what was it? It was the peach cream, right? The 927 Prismacolor, and then the chocolate 1082. We essentially built up the values and the form of the hand using just those two colors, and then at the very end of the live stream last week, I added a little bit of the 10% French gray 1068. And what the hand looked like when I started today was achieved using only those four pencils. And now what today's phase is going to be all about is adding a couple new colors. So this 1092 is a new color that I haven't used on the hand yet. And then also just building up more contrast. We want more and more contrast. So the shadows need to be darker, and while the highlights don't need to be brighter, because the highlights are already as bright as the white pencil will go, essentially. And so it's all about just getting the darker shadows on the hand as dark as they need to be in order to get the contrast that we want. And so that's what today is going to be focused on. And hopefully this gives you an idea of just how slow the process can be to creating more realistic drawings, because it can be quite tedious and time consuming. And really the secret just comes down to taking your time and not rushing the project. Oh, hey there, Shiny. Love hanging out with me? Thank you. I appreciate that. I love hanging out with you guys as well. I'll be honest with you. There's some days where I'm just not feeling it. I'm just not feeling like doing art stuff. I don't feel like doing live streaming stuff. I don't feel like any of that. But I swear, every time I just get on here and start doing it, regardless of how I feel before I start streaming, I always feel better once I get to just hang out with you guys and chat. And eventually I'm just in the mood. And that's my biggest secret to getting through, like, artist block, when you don't feel like you can create anything. Anytime somebody asks about what to do, I always tell them to just draw a banana, because I think the word banana is hilarious, and so telling people to draw it makes me laugh a little bit inside. And because it doesn't matter what you're drawing, it doesn't matter what you create or anything like that. If you just start doing it, eventually your mind kind of starts to relax, and you find yourself being in the mood. Like, sometimes the way to get into the mood is to force yourself to do it, and then your mind will just kind of relax, and then you'll be in the mood, and before you know it, you'll spend 2-3 hours sitting there drawing and just being nice and relaxed. I would say the the what's causing the artist block, like 99% of the time, is not that you're not creative or you're not a good artist or anything like that, but it's usually just external stresses, I feel like. And when you get into a project and you start coloring or drawing, and you allow your mind to relax and get distracted a little bit, that's when you start to feel less stressed and less, worried about other things. And then you can just kind of get into your artwork and enjoy it again. And then immediately you're just in the mood and you're less stressed. It's just better. Yeah, Electro, you're just strengthening my point there. Yeah, I didn't even see your comment before I started explaining that. Yeah, sometimes you just gotta draw something, no matter what it is. Just kind of let the pencil hit the paper, and before you know it, your mind will forget about your daily stresses, and then you'll just be in the mood to create. And then maybe in that moment you'll come up with an idea that gets you excited. Am I on a Sketch Daily app? No, I am not. No daily sketches for me. I honestly, I don't remember the last time that I've done any artistic stuff outside of just these live streams. So essentially just twice a week. Like I basically just do art twice a week during these live streams, and I don't do anything outside of it. I haven't done that for I haven't done that for quite some time. There. Now that our hand has a little bit more pink into it, starting to come to life a bit more, now I need to go back and grab probably another color. Let me think here for a second. 1017. Maybe 1017. Just kind of processing a little bit. It's always good to take a moment. 1082, let's see here. Yeah, I feel like I need a darker brown than this 1082. Where is this 1082? You'd think I'd have this. Okay, there it is. Yeah, this color should be dark enough. So I'm going to keep using the 1082. I'm going to set those pencils aside because holding them's making my hands sweaty. Yeah, and I'm not quite ready for Ninja Purple. Not quite ready for Ninja Purple. So I'm going to go back to that chocolate color that we used last time. Am I a drawing teacher? I don't know. I don't teach people how to draw, only how to color. Drawing is something that I think is best learned individually on your own. There are techniques that you can look up and learn how to do, like like proportions for people, or, certain technical aspects to drawing. But in the end, there's no technique that's going to magically make you better. It's just extensive and relentless practice. And unfortunately, I can't teach experience. You just have to do it over and over and over and over again. I've been drawing since I was 6 years old, and I'm still not that great at drawing. There are far better artists that are better than drawing than I am. But they might not be as good at coloring as I am. I've focused a lot more of my time on the coloring aspect of art as opposed to the drawing aspect. Oh, good morning, Kay. No, Lectra, I don't think that I did see your email. You sent me some more artwork or something to look at? I'm not satisfied with the tip of my pencil. One moment, let me sharpen this pencil. There we go. That's much better. Oh, hey there, Lisa. I didn't see you come in. And Catrice, I see you. Carol, also. I don't know if I said hello to you. I try not to miss anybody in chat, but if I do, I apologize for that. I try to say hello to all of you individually. Do I only do colored pencils or other mediums as well? I also do oil painting and pastels. I've tried color or watercolors a couple times. I really like them, but it's very difficult for me to do multiple different mediums in my teeny tiny little space that I work in, and so I don't get to experiment as much as I'd like because I have such a limited space, and like unpacking and packing different art supplies is really big hassle, since I use my space for so many different things. I kind of have to just limit myself, otherwise I kind of go crazy with the constant mess and cleaning up and making another mess and then cleaning up to make another mess and all of that stuff. But I do really like the way watercolors look. I've wanted to get a little bit more into the watercolors, but just can't at the moment. Did I visit Vavel Castle before making it? Oh yes, I've been to Vavel Castle countless times. I really can't even say how many times. I mean, I was the one that took the picture, so I've had to have been there in order to take that picture. Yeah, the reference photo I used for that pastel painting was my own, so. Do I ever find myself thinking that none of my art is finished? No, no. Maybe that's just experience. Maybe it's just experience that gives me that confidence to say when something's done. But it could also be my personality, because I don't know if I've ever struggled with that. I know a lot of people, they're like, oh, when do you say a piece is done, or when do you think that it's ready to call a piece of work done? And honestly, I can't really relate to that very much because I've never really had work that I felt was incomplete and I wasn't sure when to call it done. I've always had like a clear picture or like a finished line in mind during the creation process, that by the time I get there, I know that I'm there. And so, yeah, I just can't relate too heavily to that feeling of questioning completion. Your work is stunning, but how do you get to do realism finishes if the paper is so toothy? I've never seemed to get photo finish as the paper grit comes through. What's the secret? Well, the biggest secret's going to be the kind of paper that you're using. Some papers will have more tooth to them, and the more tooth requires more layers of the pencil in order to cover the tooth. There are some papers that, you know, are a little bit finicky, and you'll struggle with that really nice finish. But the reality is, when you burnish, when you burnish on paper, if you press too hard during the burnishing process, what you can end up getting is kind of like this. You get this weird texture on the paper where you've essentially like flattened the paper in certain spots, and the pencils will no longer stick to it because it's so smooth. And really, I would say the secret to getting the like photorealistic work is to never burnish. Just don't burnish. Just keep adding layers. Eventually, if you keep adding layers, you get to a smooth ending. And so I've been getting further and further away from even burnishing my work. And burnishing, if you're unaware, that's just where you press, you give the pencil a firm pressure to the point that it smooths the paper, and you get just like a really clean, like smooth surface from burnishing. And I've been allowing the pencil grain to show up a little bit more, and then just applying another layer over that, and generally will just continue to smooth out more and more with every layer. And you, at the end, you'll get the same effect that you get from burnishing. It takes a little bit more time, but you don't run into that problem where like the tooth of the paper keeps wanting to show up. And then also, I want to mention something about photorealism, since or just realism in general, because I know that you guys probably go on Instagram and you see like these amazing videos or these amazing photos of people's artwork and stuff like that. And there's a small optical illusion that you have to be aware of. The first thing is, photos always lie. Okay, there's no photo that looks like what something looks like in real life. And so just remember that photos are the biggest liars in the world. Okay, no photo tells the truth. And especially when it comes to artwork, photos photos are just so unreliable when it comes to artwork, because you will see photos of people's artwork and it will look like a photo. And one of the major optical illusions that you have to realize is that if I draw or paint something that's like, I don't know, say it's like on A1 size. So that's like, I don't know the exact measurements, but let's say it's like 50 by 70 centimeters. So a decent sized piece, like quite large, right? And if I take a photo of that and I shrink it down, you have to realize that that shrinking, even if it's only shrunk to, let's say, 25% of the size, right? And you're seeing it on your computer monitor, or even smaller, you're seeing it on your phone, because I know a lot of people see pictures on their phone. You have to realize that when you shrink down that level of detail, you create something that is inhumanly possible, right? Because no human would be able to replicate that detail at that tiny pixel size, right? No human hand would be able to create that. And so when you look at it on this smaller screen, it looks even more realistic than what it's going to look like in person. Because photos lie, they don't tell the truth. So don't ever compare your work to photos, because photos are lying to you. They never tell the truth. So just keep that in mind when you're browsing artwork and you're like, oh my gosh, that colored pencil drawing, it's so seamless. It doesn't even look like pencils. How'd that person get it so smooth? I guarantee you see that work in person, you're gonna tell like, oh, I can actually see the pencil grain a little bit. Oh, I can see where the lines went. I can see that a human hand made it. But when you look on it on a phone or even a computer monitor, and you have a drawing that was been downsized into a small photo, you can't see those things. It's impossible. And so just keep that in mind when you're looking at. Don't ever get disheartened by amazing work that you see and think like, you know, it's not achievable or something like that, or you'll never get there. The reality is nobody will ever get there because photos are optical illusions to things, especially like colored pencil drawings. Oh my goodness! And to test this theory, take one of your drawings or whatever, hang it up on the wall, and look at it from all the way at the other side of the room. So hang it up all the way over there and look at it, and it's going to look more realistic from a distance. You're going to look at it and be like, wow, that does look really realistic. And that's the same idea. It's the same concept as when you look at a picture on your phone or your computer. You have something really big that's shrunk down into something that's not humanly possible to make. And yeah, and then walk real close to your drawing and you'll be able to tell that it's a drawing again. Same optical illusion. So don't fret too much. And for my work, I can assure you, like every single one of my colored pencil drawings, no matter how realistic you perceive it to be, they're not realistic at all. Like the any tutorial that I've done, none of my drawings are that realistic. You are mistaken. The camera is lying to you. And let me just tell you the truth that there is one. I have one drawing that I've done. I did it last year. That you almost can't tell, even looking at it from this distance, that it's a colored pencil drawing. But it's really small, and it also took me 100 hours. So that was the point of it. But if you find this hand to start looking realistic, I can assure you there is so much evidence that this is a drawing in person. The camera's lying to you. Don't believe it. Where do I get inspiration from? Literally everywhere. Like there's no single source. Yeah. Absolutely, Gavin. No problem. Yeah, I think it's about time to get some ninja purple or something close to it. My hand is starting to look a little bit orange here, and purple is really, really great for pulling out orange from skin tones, because blue is also a decent color, but purple is a little bit more natural looking. Blue tones can be a bit extreme. But I try to do as much as I can with just a few colors, and that's gonna make coloring 1,000 times easier for you. If you think about it, when you draw with graphite, and you don't have color to worry about at all, I mean, just how much easier is it than coloring, right? It's 1,000 times easier to just shade something in with graphite than it is to try to color it in with colored pencils. So why try to color it in when you do try to color it in with like 15 pencils when you can get really close? I mean, you can get pretty close with just 4 pencils, 4 or 5 pencils, and you just want to start getting the values in the form of whatever it is you're drawing, and then make the fine adjustments later on by adding additional colors. There's just no reason to go overboard with the colors right away. You know, don't make it more complicated than it has to be. That's my philosophy. Yeah, you really just need to get highlights, midtones, and shadows. And that's only going to take 4 to 5 colors on just about everything. On just about everything. It's only going to take about 4 or 5 colors. So all right, let's see here. Let's go a little bit darker in here. Another thing with color is dealing with color fear. A lot of people are afraid to apply their colors, and they usually go like real slow, and they're like, I don't want to go too dark because then I can't fix it or whatever. But you know, if you take the time to select your colors wisely, then you can color with a lot more confidence, knowing that it's not really possible to go darker than what you should, because you know the color can't go darker than what it's able to go. And so select your colors wisely and apply them to their fullest extent where they show up, like that color. And once you start getting more confident with the level of value that you produce with your colors in your work, your drawings are just going to look 1,000 times better and a lot closer to the realism that you search for if you're one of those people that really wants to go realistic with their drawings. All right, I think it's time to pull out one of the many Ninja purple colors, 1017. So let me grab my pencils real quick. Let's see here. This looks like 1017. Oh yeah. I've used this color a lot. Prismacolor 1017. Let's see. This is, what's this color called? Clay Rose. Yes, Clay Rose. Perfect name for Ninja Purple. And I'll probably even incorporate more purple into this drawing later on in toning. Oh, hey there, Daniel. Yeah, I don't do much Instagram Electra, so I don't know anything about filters or anything like that. I don't even I used to write captions underneath my artwork on Instagram, but I don't even bother doing that anymore. I literally just share it and forget about it. I don't even know how many followers on Instagram I have. I don't remember the last time I even looked. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of social media stuff. I just do it more. I do it less and less. Yeah, I do it less and less, but I basically do it because it feels somewhat mandatory given my profession. Yeah, this pencil's a little bit out of center here. Let me see if I can cut some of the wood away. But look at the tip of that thumb. That thumb already looks better. I barely even applied any of this color. Purple, just remember that, purple. That is the secret to skin tone. Anybody tells you anything different, they're probably don't know what they're talking about. Purple is the secret. I've seen some interesting videos on skin tones, like people doing all the base layers in green, or I've seen people use gold. But the real secret is purple. Gosh, this pencil's really out of center. Yeah. Sometimes you got to deal with that nonsense. But I've dealt with it. I've dealt with it with every brand of pencil, so it's not just Prismacolor. There we go. Probably have to do that again later. I have 2,500 followers. Wow, that's more than I thought I had. Okay, this color again is 1017. This is going to bring much needed purple into the skin. Just take note of what this hand looks like right now. I'm adding one of the secret skin tone colors here. And I just want you to take note of what this hand looks like right now, because it's going to look 1,000 times better once I apply this color. I mean, that thumb already looks 1,000 times better. I don't know if you told this before, but what do I use to go live? So I have two cameras that I have set up, and then I use OBS to organize my camera setup and stuff, and my little graphics that's around me, and the little social media stuff. And then I stream that to YouTube, and then I just click go live on YouTube, and that's it. I've made a video before showing you my setup on live streaming. I've done a video of that, so you can YouTube search that if you want to check it out. Are you taking off for a few minutes, Electro? Okay, no problem. I'll probably still be here. It'll be cutting it close. I'll probably be here for about 15, 20 more minutes, so can't make any promises, but appreciate you coming by. Okay, do you see how much more realistic this thumb is getting? I mean, is it showing up on camera well enough for all of you lovely people? Let me know. Let me know if you're seeing the difference. The magic is happening right now, right before your eyes. The magic is happening. Ninja Purple doing its thing. And this isn't even the toning stage. This is still just, I still just consider this base layers. The toning stage is my favorite. That's my favorite stage on anything, really. Doesn't matter what it is. That's where So the toning stage is where I bring in the unique colors that shine through whatever the subject is. And each part of this project will have a toning stage. I'm just doing the hand first now, but once you complete the base layers, what you aim for is to try to get the colors as close as you can without being too finicky about it. And so you get them as close as you can with as few colors as possible. And then you analyze the reference photo to determine, where or what specific color is kind of missing from your drawing. And in the case of the hand here, there's a lot of greens, there's a lot of blues, because you have like the veins that run down the wrist here, and then you can even see some of the veins in the thumb. So you have some greens showing up like right around here and right around here, and then it turns a little bluish. And then you also have like, you kind of have a bright orange that shows up like in the fingers here. You have this really, really bright orange, and that's because of the translucent property of the skin. And you have the light shining through. You ever take a real bright flashlight in the dark and put it underneath your hand, you can kind of see your hand glow orange. So you have that effect happening in the skin as well. So probably use a bit of green, a little bit of blue, and then a nice bright orange. Probably use like a middle of the road kind of pinkish color. So a lot of different tones that come through on the skin. And you just can't really try to match those tones like from the very beginning. You kind of have to do that as an afterthought in order to get them to look right. You just try to match it the best that you can in the base layers, and then once the base layers are done and everything's nice and smooth, that's when you bring in those additional extra colors. And it could be 4 colors, it could be 5, 6, 7, 8. Honestly, there's no limit to the number of colors that you can use for the toning. You have a ton of freedom there when it comes to the toning stage as to how many colors you want to bring in, and exactly how you want to tone it. Anusha. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. You're not disturbing. No, you're not disturbing at all asking questions. I love questions, and I never get enough of them during the live streams. So yeah, don't. There's nobody has a quota on how many questions they're allowed to ask. You guys can ask as many questions as you want, and the more questions you ask, the better it is for me, because otherwise I'll just ramble about nonsense, and you don't learn as much from me rambling nonsense, I don't think. So if you ask questions, you're going to learn more. And if I've answered the question a million times, I will answer it a million more times if I have to. Do I always use one color all over and then change to another, or do you keep swapping from color to color and back again? That's a really great question, and a lot of it depends on the subject and the complexity of the colors. Obviously, if I'm coloring something like, oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Let's say it's a fish, okay, a real shiny, colorful fish. And say the colors shift from like purple, green, yellow, orange, and all that kind of craziness. Obviously, in those certain circumstances, I can't just apply one color over the whole thing, because I'm going from something like purple to orange to blue and all of those different colors. So in that case, you'd have to kind of be switching pencils quite regularly, depending on which part of the subject you're coloring. But in the case of skin, And in the case of many, many subjects, they can be broken up into parts. And in particular, this hand has a general color scheme, right? It's all kind of like these purpley, orangey browns and tan gray colors, right? It has a color family, I guess you could say, and they are all really closely related, and they only shift a little bit. So what you can do, and what I've done on this hand, is I've kind of found like that real middle of the road color, and that was that peach color that I initially started with. It gave me something to work on, because before I applied that color, it was just the gray paper, right? So keeping it simple, because I like to keep things simple. Complication is just annoying to me. So to keep it simple, I just start with just a middle of the road peachy color, something that's not too bright, something that's not too dark, just something that I can cover the hand with and give me some kind of foundation. And then from there, I incorporated the darker color. I incorporated a dark brown color, and that allowed me to fine tune where the shadows are and kind of build up some of the form of the hand, while also applying a very relevant color to the subject. And that's the way I usually break down my subjects. Is I try to find that the safe color. What's the safe color that I can kind of haphazardly apply over the whole thing, without it being in the way later on. Obviously, I'd have to take some care in if it has like bright highlights that I have to avoid or something like that. But I don't like to be switching back and forth between pencils. If you're constantly just switching back and forth between pencils, then you're probably not doing a lot of actual coloring. You're just kind of shuffling your pencils back and forth. And the reality is, you can do a lot with just one color, and you can always apply other colors over top of it. And experience will give you a better idea of, what colors are best and all of that. But yeah, hopefully that answers the question to some degree, because at this point I kind of feel like I'm just rambling on. But yeah. Let's see. Sorry, I probably missed some other questions. How many base layers of colors have I used so far? Two? Kind of two-ish. Like, I would say like two and a half. Like 2.5 layers. Everybody defines layers differently, but I would say last week, was layer one, right? I applied that cream color in the brown and a touch of gray in some of the highlights on the palm, and that's it. And then today, like, I'm partially through layer two. But you could also maybe say that the cream color was layer one, then the brown was layer two, and then today I started with the what was it? The 1017? No, it was, I don't know. It was the 1092. I started with that, so maybe you could call that layer three. Yeah, I don't know. It's really really hard to say how many layers are on a drawing, right? Because maybe I've applied more color here than I did here. Actually, I know that I did, because I've covered this part like 5 or 6 times, where I've only covered that maybe twice. So, so it's really hard to distinguish one layer from another, and essentially, it's I think it's just easier to refer to it as a process of as to which color I'm applying at a time. And I've really only applied like 5 colors to the hand so far. Do I use Prismacolor? Oh, okay, Kay, you answered. Yes, I use Prismacolor. These are Prismacolor pencils. Some color pencil coloring tips. Tip number one, never apply the most important rule. The most important rule of colored pencils is never apply more pressure than what is necessary for the color to show up. That is rule number one. That is going to be an axiom that you need to remember and repeat to yourself every single time you're coloring, because a lot of people have heavy hands when they're coloring, and I can assure you it does not help your result. So the lighter your touch, the more efficient you're going to be in coloring. And so yeah, that's rule number one, the most important rule. I say it very, very often, and I say it a lot because it is a rule that is easily forgotten and not appreciated enough. Yeah, not appreciated enough. Oftentimes people get caught up in wanting to get the paper covered rather than the paper covered well. There's a difference between covering the paper with your pencils and covering the paper well. And if you apply too much pressure, you are not going to cover your paper well. So that's rule number one, and I'm going to keep emphasizing it until everybody in chat knows it by heart. Never press harder than what is necessary for the color to show up. The most important colored pencil rule of them all. Honestly, there's no other rules that you need to live by. But that is rule number one, and rule number 2, 3, 4, and 5. Let's see. Another tip I can give you on coloring with colored pencils. Let's see here. What would be next to rule number one? It's a good question. That's a really good question. I don't think I've ever really. I do have a video. I do have a video on 6 ways to improve your color pencil work. I would say the second important rule to keep in mind is never use too many colors. That's something that's really, really important as well. When you are working on a project, and even if it's as colorful as what's one of those colorful birds? A peacock. Say it's as colorful as a peacock, right? Tons and tons of colors, all kinds of blues and greens and yellows and junk. So much colors. You're probably looking at that thinking, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to use like every color in my pencil set to create it. When in reality, probably not. Just about everything that you will ever color with colored pencils will have 15 or less actual colors in it. About 15 colors. You can just about every, and I have to emphasize just about, not every, but just about every reference photo or picture that you want to come up with, you can narrow it down to about 7 to 9 colors with the pencils. So 7 to 9 colors. And what you want to do is you want to use those 7 to 9 colors and get as close as you possibly can to what your reference photo looks like. Just use those 7 colors. Don't go outside of them. Just use those colors there. 7 to 9 colors that you pick. And only then, once you've maximized those 7 colors. Do you guys remember the formula? Do you guys remember the formula I gave you? I think was it last week actually. I think it was last week, on how many colors you have when you have 7 pencils or when you have 9 pencils. It's n squared minus n. So if you have 7 colors, square that, that's 49, and then you subtract 7 from that, that's 42. So if you have 7 pencils, you actually have 42 different distinctive shades of colors of those pencils. And the reason you have that is because you have the 7 colors this way, you have the 7 colors this way, and then the middle row, you subtract the middle row, and so you have 42 colors that you can produce with distinction. And then of course, between all of those colors, you have the gradient. So you actually have an infinite number of colors if you only have one pencil, and theoretically, okay, theoretically, but mathematically that is true. And so you don't need a lot of colors. That's rule number two. Rule number two: minimize your color choice, maximize your output. That's rule number two. Rule number three. I think I saw in chat, buy good paper. Yeah, that's not even rule number 778. Good paper. Yeah, good paper is going to make a huge difference on how much you like using colored pencils. It's not as important as pastels, but it is still very relevant to colored pencils. Yeah. So rule number one, pressure. Rule number two, minimizing your color choice, maximizing your color output. And then rule number three, use decent paper. I would say my rule when it comes to paper is if your single sheet of paper that you are using costs less than $1, then you are using the wrong paper. This sheet of paper here probably cost, I don't know, probably around like $1.60 for this one sheet of paper, around $1.60. And so, and just about every paper that I have is somewhere around anywhere between like $1.50 to like $3 or $4 per sheet, depending on the size, obviously. Alrighty then. Let's see here. That hand is starting to look really good. There is one color that I kind of feel like I'm missing here. Let me see here. I feel like I kind of feel like it's still like the 1019 color. Where's that color at? I think right here. Yep. Do I have Copic markers? Yes, indeed I do. I don't use them very often. Okay, so this color here is the 1019. This is the rosy beige. So this color is just a slightly lighter version of the 1019 clay rose. Let's see. Can I tell us more about my Patreon channel and how we might help support you? What can one expect from your Patreon channel? I appreciate the question, JP, because I never promote my Patreon channel. I probably would have more patrons if I promoted my Patreon channel more often, but I don't. Self-promotion is one of those things that I just never really do, and a lot of people tell me to do more of it. But anyways, so my Patreon channel, I do colored pencil and pastel tutorials every Tuesday and Thursday. If you've been following my channel the past few weeks, ever since the pandemic, then what you've been seeing on my channel here is what I do on Patreon. So this live stream that I'm doing right now with this project would have normally only been available on Patreon, but I opened up all of my Patreon content for everybody, so that you all have something to watch while, going outside is not really something that we can do just yet. But if you were to support on Patreon right now, what you would get besides these bi-weekly live streams is that you would get the library of the live streams that I've done for the past few years. I have 130-ish colored pencil tutorials ranging from so many different subjects. I have several portrait tutorials, I have several animal tutorials, I've done dogs, I've done cats, I've done birds, I've done bear, I've done a bear, I've done I've done a lot of animals. Yeah, I've done a lot of animals. I've done some landscapes with, and this is just colored pencils. I've done the same exact thing with pastels. So I have probably around 80 or 90 pastel tutorials. So all in all, you're gonna get around 200, 300 tutorials. I have some drawing tutorials. I have some graphite tutorials. So signing up on Patreon, you get access to all of that stuff for $5. So I don't want to call it a good deal, but to me it sounds like a good deal. Yes, I have done a raven as well. Yeah, I did a raven in pastels. I did a falcon in graphite. Anyways, so yeah, that's what you get access to by supporting me on Patreon. And then for projects like this, you also get the reference photo. So you get the reference photo for every project that I do. And then I create line art of that project, which you also get access to. So you get the line art, you get the reference photo, and then you get the live streams that I do. Blackpink. I've never heard of Blackpink. Um, did I miss any other questions? Have I wrote any books? No, but I have been a contributing author of a book. Very small. I have a small section on small section in a health book about tempering your body using cold water and the health benefits of saunas. You think I would do great with a book? Well, thank you for that. I've wanted to write a book for a long time. I've wanted to write a story. I always really appreciate the stories that I read from books that I like, and it always inspires me to write a story. Sometimes I just feel like really in the mood to write a story, but I've never fully committed to it. I did have a rough draft of a story that I was writing when I was in high school. I'd written like over 150 pages, and I had it on my hard drive, and then my hard drive got corrupted, and I lost more than just that story. But it was called As the War Wages, and it was a story about two best friends that they they kind of get taken to like different training camps. Like this was supposed to take place in like feudal Japan, so about 600 years ago. And I was going to put like a lot of Japanese history in it, and essentially what was taking place was that these two best friends, like they grew up together and stuff, and they get taken to two different camps and trained to be samurai, but they are trained opposing one another. So the people that are training them are enemies, and the whole story takes place in two time frames. So you have the time frame that the war is going on, and then you have the time frame of their childhood and them being trained in these different camps. And the story was inspired by nothing. I just came up with it randomly, and I had written over 150 pages of it, and and then I lost it. I don't have it anymore. The file, like I said, got corrupted, and all of the story that I had written just vanished. But that was the premise of the story. That was the premise of the story. Was just two friends that end up fighting against each other as adults. What's the coolest white version? The closest white version of paper to this gray toned paper. I would say the best that matches this paper is the Stonehenge vellum. Yeah. When I started writing that story, Kay, there was no such thing as the cloud. There was no cloud to save it on. I started writing that story. I would have been 16. Was I 16? Yeah. Yeah, I was 16. And I wrote it on the school and library computer. I didn't own a computer. And I don't even know if there was a such thing as a smartphone yet. Have I read Harry Potter? Yes, I did. Yes, I read the Harry Potter series. I read the Harry Potter series with my wife, actually. We read it together, like literally together, not she read it, I read it, but like we read it to each other. Let's see here. This needs to be toned down just a little bit. Needs a little bit of this magic color right over top of it. The hand's looking pretty good. I'd say the hand is looking pretty good. And you know, I never my hand is perfectly fine. My hand, it's not tired at all. My wrist doesn't hurt. And that is because I always follow rule number one, and that is to never press harder than what is necessary with the pencil. The BTS group, the K-pop group. Oh no, no. I have this thing about drawing famous people. Uh, I'm not like a fan. Like generally, I'm not really a fan of famous people, like movie stars and singers and pop artists and things like that. Like I might appreciate their work, their body of work, but it does not go beyond that, right? Like what's an actor that I like the work. Can I name anybody? Honestly, even a single name escapes me right now. Keanu Reeves. I really like Keanu Reeves in his movies. He has really great intensity. He's great in his movies, right? But it stops there. Like, I think he's great in his movies, but I don't want to draw him. And part of the reason I don't draw famous people is because I've never wanted to. I never want to piggyback on somebody else's fame. Like if I draw famous people, and then it gets like shared or whatever, and then fans of that famous people come to see my stuff because I drew a picture of that famous person. I don't like that. Like I don't do any of my art to be famous or anything like that. So I'm just weird in the sense that I don't like to draw famous people. So I don't do it. If I did more of it, I probably have hit 100,000 subscribers years ago. But I don't want to. Like I just don't want to. I appreciate the suggestion, but I just can't do it. Have I tried playing tennis? Yes, tennis is extremely fun. I love playing tennis. I have not got to play it in a long time, but I used to play it with my roommates when I lived in Seattle. Let's see, I need another color here. Kind of missing a color. I feel like I need another brownish color. It's almost toning stage. Yeah, almost toning stage. I'm still using the 1017 color. No, 1019. Yeah, it's almost time for just the toning stage of this project here. Let's see, did I miss anything? Thanks for answering questions. Absolutely. Love answering questions. So another tennis. So back to the tennis question. What I like to play even more than tennis is pickleball. How many in chat have even heard of pickleball? Pickleball is so fun. It is ridiculously fun. Your thinking is just amazing and different. I really appreciate that. Well, thank you. Thanks. Honestly, I don't know how to respond to that other than thank you. Have I ever colored trees? Yes, I have. Forests? Yes, I also have done that. Waterfalls and rocks? Yes. I've colored just about everything. Yeah, the hand will need some yellows, indeed. It will need some yellows, it will need some greens, it will need some purples, some oranges, some reds. Table tennis is also very fun. So no one in chat has heard of pickleball. The name of the sharpener I use is Jakar. So Jakar. Yes, Lisa. There you go. Lisa knows pickleball. Yeah, pickleball is great. It's essentially old people tennis, but oh gosh, it is so fun. I would say pickleball is 1,000 times more fun than tennis. Yeah, 1,000 times more fun. I need like a yellowish brown. Yeah, I think I need a yellowish brown. Something like that's like a greenish brown. I actually kind of like that. 1098. That might be a secret color. Let me grab my pencils here. I'm looking for a 1098. My pencils are all out of order right now, which is not normally a thing, but it's a. That looks. Is that 1098? No, that's way too gray. 1098. It almost looks green. Yeah. Wow, that looks super green. Well, I found it. All right. Let's see. Yes. This is artichoke. So it's definitely green. Man, that doesn't look green. All right. Yeah, so I'm adding some green. This is 1098 artichoke Prismacolor. So a little bit of color theory knowledge for everyone. Anytime you apply the complement of a color, it turns brown. And otherwise, so another way of explaining it is if your hand looks too pink, it has too much red in it, green will tone down the red, because green and red are complementary colors. If your hand looks too yellow, purple will tone it down because purple and yellow are complementary colors. If your hand is too blue, then you can apply orange because blue and orange are complementary colors, and so forth. And so that's a little thing that you can use in your coloring process. If your hand is just looking a little too something, if it's looking a little too red, you can apply some green. If it's looking a little too orange, you can apply some blue. Although, if it's looking a little bit too orange, I would probably go the purple route as opposed to blue. Purple has blue in it, so essentially it will tone that down. Oh, okay, Valady. Yeah, you take care. Yeah, you look into pickleball. I think it's more of an American thing. Pickleball. I don't know if it's real popular worldwide. I'm not sure. What's pickleball? Uh, is I'm a national level tennis player, but I don't play great. But I need to know what it is. So pickleball, if you take pickleball, or if you take table tennis and regular tennis, and you kind of mush them together and then play outside, that's pickleball. Like that's essentially pickleball, and it's just yeah, it's just a super fun game. I don't know how else to explain it. It's table tennis plus tennis. You if you take the paddles, you take the paddles from table tennis, inject them with a little bit of steroids so that they grow and they're big and strong, and then you take a wiffle ball from, you know, the child's baseball, I guess, and you just smack that over a net. That's pickleball for you. But it's oh gosh, it's so fun. So I'll give you a little story, a little story on how I came across pickleball. So when I lived in Washington State, I lived up in Everett while I was going to community college. Before I well, I got my associate's degree at community college before I got accepted to the University of Washington, and so that's what I did. And there was this park next to where I lived, and there I used to just take my dogs over there to go for a walk by the park, and there's this cage thingy with this weird net in this small court, and I was like, man, what is that place used for? Because I had never seen anybody using it, never saw anybody using it, which is kind of funny. Once I continue with the story, you'll understand why it's kind of funny. But so it always like it was just always seemed unused to me, and I was like, what the heck is that thing for? Nobody uses it. It's like a miniature tennis court or whatever. That's what I kind of called it. And then one day, I was coming back from the skate park because I used to skateboard, and there was a skate park not too far from where I lived, and I'd use my longboard to skate down there, and then I'd skate there for some time or whatnot. But I was on my way back from the skate park one day, and I saw some people using that court, and I was like, oh my gosh, there's somebody there. People are actually using it. Occasionally, I've seen kids like goofing off in there, running around or whatever, but these people are actually legitimately using it. I was like, oh, I gotta scope it out. I gotta figure out what's going on here, and so I skate over there, and there was two couples, two middle-aged couples or whatnot, and they were playing pickleball. And I'm like, what is this? And they're they're like, oh, it's pickleball, and I'm like, what the heck is pickleball? And they explained to me, and I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds like fun. And they're like, well, do you want to play? And I was like, heck yeah, I want to play. And I played for like 4 hours straight. I mean, I had those people just like keeling over. They just, I mean, they couldn't keep up with me. I was just running all over the place, freaking hitting the pickleball, and gosh, I was immediately addicted. Well, it turns out they were my neighbors. They were a couple houses down, but they lived right next to each other, and they were just down. They were just a few houses down from where I lived, and they're like, yeah, we play here like every week, or like every Thursday and Saturday or something. I was like, how on earth did I miss you for the past 4 years? Like, I've been living there for like 4 years at this point, and I was like, how did I not see you for 4 years? Like, you know how many times I've walked my dog past this park, because the park was like right across the street, and I was like, how did I never see you guys playing? And so in 4 years, it took 4 years for me to finally see them playing, and it was like, I don't even understand how that's possible. To this day, it blows my mind how I only saw them that one time. But from that point forward, we, well, gosh, what was his name? I'm trying to remember his name. Harry. Yeah, the one guy, he gave me his phone number. His name was Harry, and I just realized how funny this is. So I didn't know his last name. So in my phone, his name was Harry Pickleball. And I knew that when I would get a text message from him, he would be going over there to play pickleball, and I would meet up with them like twice a week, and we would just sit there and play pickleball. And so every time they would go over to play pickleball, I would get a text message from Harry Pickleball. And yeah, yeah, lots of fun, lots of fun. Pickleball's great. What do I do for a living? What you are watching right now is what I do for a living. I get to tell you guys fun stories, teach you how to draw and color stuff, and just have a good time. That's what I get to do for a living. I don't do anything else. Yeah, I don't do anything else for a living. Just this. Oh, another thing I want to note with this green color that I'm using right now. So a moment ago, I was explaining complementary colors and how to use them. Well, there's quite a bit of yellow that comes into the skin tones here, and you might reach for the yellow to do this, but because the skin right now is kind of pinky red, you can use green for it as well, because yellow and blue make green, and when you apply red to pull out the green, or when you pull out, wait, was I? Yeah, if you have red and you apply it to green, you start to pull out what makes green green, and so you kind of separate the two colors that make green. So you start pulling out some of the blue, and then you're left with like a bit of yellow. Do I sell my paintings? No, I do not. Complementary colors turn into brown, so you have to use them correctly. But yeah, I mean, not necessarily like turn into mud. What where you start to get muddy is when you start to apply just too many colors in one spot. And so they don't necessarily have to be complementary. They could just be a plethora of too much color in one spot. Should a person study color theory? No, I don't think so. We had a little bit of this conversation, I think, on Tuesday about color theory and my feelings around color theory. And the way that I explained it, I used an analogy to music theory. So you can be an amazing musician and know absolutely nothing about music theory. All you do, you just play your instrument and you just play what sounds good to you, right? Well, the same is true with color theory. You know, enough experience will give you more than what you need to be a fantastic artist. And I would say in general, most really great artists don't know anything technical about color theory, like what they would teach in school or whatever. But I would say where color theory is probably more important to know and understand is probably something like animation, where you're dealing with like characters in scenes and lighting and things like that. That is where color theory is probably going to be a bit more important to understand and develop. Like if you're a cartoonist for Pixar, odds are, or an animator for Pixar, odds are you know color theory pretty well, because it's important to in that kind of medium to understand how colors are used to create particular moods. But in the same thing, like just you can kind of learn those things intuitively as well. Still have the fingernails to do here too. Oh, I went like an hour longer than I thought. Um, let's see. I think I'm gonna call it a day. So let's see here. Um, next week, next week, the plan is to finish the hand. I don't want to get into the toning stage. I wanted to kind of just keep it with this layer. Even adding this color is a little bit more than what I intended on doing. The hand has a lot of extra pinks in it. So next week I'm going to do the fingernails, and then I'm going to do the toning. So I'll go back over the toning concept and stuff next week. But we'll finish the hand. That's the thing. Next week we will be finished with the hand. It will look more real than it looks right now, because right now the color is still a little off. I need lots and lots of pinks in there, giving the hand a lot of life. And then some oranges, some blues, greens, all that kind of stuff. But I think the hand is starting to look really good up to this point. And then, yeah, I'll put in the fingernails. And then the following week, we'll start on the ice cream cone. And then the last part, we'll do the ice cream. But yeah, that's going to be it for today. So I had a lot of fun with you guys today. Some interesting conversation for sure. Yeah, Electro, I'm gonna play some chess after this. But anyways, thank you guys so much for coming by and hanging out. You really do make my day just like 1,000 times better. I can't even emphasize that enough. You guys are awesome. And I will see you either over on Twitch, or I'll see you on Tuesday. Have a fantastic rest of your week and weekend. Stay safe, stay healthy. Peace.